I was sitting in the waiting room at my doctor's office last Tuesday, just flipping through an old magazine, when I overheard two women talking near the water cooler. One of them, she must have been in her early 70s, was telling her friend about her husband. She said he'd been forgetting things more and more, little things at first, where he put his keys, what day it was. But then it got worse. He'd forget conversations they'd just had, forget why he walked into a room. She looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from worry, not just lack of sleep. Her friend asked if the doctors knew what was causing it, and the woman, she just shook her head and said they were running tests. But she'd been reading things online about inflammation, about toxins we don't even think about. I didn't mean to listen in, but something about the way she said it stayed with me. My name is Arthur. I'm 80 years old, and I've spent most of my life not thinking too much about the little choices we make every day, what we eat, how we store things. It all seemed automatic, safe even. But the older I get, the more I realize how much we don't know, or how much we think we know. That turns out to be wrong. That conversation in the waiting room got me thinking about something my neighbor Frank told me a few months back. Frank's a retired chemistry teacher, sharp as ever. And one afternoon, while we were both out watering our front lawns, he started talking about food, about how we store it. He said something that surprised me. He said a lot of the foods we've been putting in the refrigerator our whole lives shouldn't be there at all. And it's not just about taste or texture. It's about what happens inside those foods when they get too cold, how it changes them, how it can even make them harmful. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a man who's lived long enough to see a lot of people get sick, a lot of friends who developed things the doctors couldn't quite explain. Inflammation, memory problems, cancers that seemed to come out of nowhere. And I started wondering, could some of it be connected? Could the little things we do every single day without thinking be adding up? Frank mentioned 5 foods, common ones, things most of us have in our kitchens right now, and when he explained why they shouldn't be refrigerated, it made sense in a way that felt almost obvious, like something we should have known all along. The first one he talked about was tomatoes. Now, I've always loved a good tomato, fresh from the garden in summer, sliced on a sandwich. But Frank said, when you put tomatoes in the fridge, the cold breaks down their cell walls. It stops them from ripening properly, and more than that, it causes them to release compounds that increase inflammation in the body. He said inflammation is one of those quiet problems. You don't feel it right away, but over time, it builds up. It affects your joints, your heart, even your brain. I thought about my friend Dorothy. She's been dealing with arthritis for years, always complaining about her knees, her hands, and you know what? She keeps a bowl of tomatoes in her fridge, has for as long as I've known her. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it made me think. The second food Frank mentioned was bread. Now, most of us were taught to keep bread in the fridge so it doesn't mold. Makes sense, right? But Frank said the cold actually makes the starches in bread turn into something called resistant starch. And when you eat that, your body has a harder time digesting it. It ferments in your gut, causes bloating, inflammation, and over time, it can mess with your blood sugar. He said there's even research suggesting that these kinds of starches, when they build up in your system, might be linked to cognitive decline, memory issues, the kind of thing that woman in the waiting room was so worried about. I started thinking about how much bread I've eaten in my life, how many sandwiches, how many mornings I pulled a loaf out of the fridge without a second thought. The third one was potatoes. Frank said when potatoes are stored in cold temperatures, the starches convert into sugars. And when you cook those potatoes, those sugars react with the amino acids in the potato and form something called acrylamide. He said acrylamide is a known carcinogen. That means it's linked to cancer. I'd never heard of acrylamide before. But when I looked it up later, I found out it's in a lot of cooked foods, especially things that are fried or baked at high temperatures. And storing potatoes in the fridge just makes it worse. My brother used to keep a big bag of potatoes in the bottom drawer of his fridge. He passed away 6 years ago, colon cancer. I don't know if the potatoes had anything to do with it, but I wish I'd known this back then. I wish I could have told him. The fourth food was coffee. Now, I know a lot of people keep their coffee in the fridge or freezer thinking it keeps it fresh, but Frank said the moisture and cold actually cause the oils in the coffee beans to break down. And those oils, when they go bad, they produce compounds that are toxic to the liver. Over time, that kind of toxicity can lead to chronic inflammation. And inflammation, like I said, affects everything: your heart, your brain, your immune system. I've been a coffee drinker my whole adult life, and for years I kept mine in the freezer. I thought I was doing the right thing. The fifth one Frank mentioned, this one surprised me the most, was onions. He said when onions are refrigerated, especially after they've been cut, the moisture causes them to develop mold and bacteria faster than you'd think, and some of those bacteria produce toxins that are hard on your digestive system. They can cause inflammation in your gut. And your gut, well, that's where a lot of your immune system lives. When your gut's not healthy, nothing else works right. I thought about all the times I've cut an onion in half, wrapped it in plastic, and stuck it in the fridge for later. I thought it was fine, safe even. But Frank said it's better to store onions in a cool, dry place, in a basket, on the counter, somewhere with airflow, and if you've cut one, just use the whole thing. Don't save it. After Frank told me all this, I didn't know what to think. Part of me felt frustrated, like, why didn't anyone teach us this? Why isn't this common knowledge? But another part of me, the part that's lived long enough to see how much things change, that part wasn't surprised at all. We've been sold a lot of ideas over the years about what's healthy, what's safe, and a lot of those ideas, they were just guesses, or marketing, or traditions that nobody questioned. I'm not saying these 5 foods are the reason people get sick. Life is complicated. Our bodies are complicated. There's no single answer to why someone develops cancer or dementia or chronic pain. But I do think the little things matter. The choices we make every single day, what we eat, how we store it, how we treat our bodies, and if something as simple as keeping your tomatoes on the counter, or your bread in a bread box, or your potatoes in a basket. If that could reduce inflammation even just a little, isn't it worth trying? I've changed a few things since that conversation with Frank. I keep my tomatoes on the windowsill now. My bread stays in a drawer. Potatoes go in a basket in the pantry. Coffee's in a jar on the shelf. And I don't save half an onion anymore. I can't say I feel dramatically different. I'm 80 years old. I've got aches and pains that aren't going anywhere. But I do feel a little more at peace, knowing I'm not accidentally doing harm, knowing I'm making choices that might help, even in small ways. That woman in the waiting room, I think about her sometimes. I wonder how her husband's doing. I wonder if anyone ever told her about these things, about inflammation, about the foods we store wrong. Maybe it wouldn't change anything for him. Maybe it's too late. But maybe, just maybe, it could help someone else, someone who's starting to forget things, someone whose joints ache a little more than they used to, someone who just wants to feel better. We can't control everything, but we can control some things. And sometimes that's enough. Take care of yourself, and maybe take a look in your fridge tonight. You might be surprised what you find.